So in today's class, what we'll see about Azure Virtual Network. So what do you say about Azure Virtual Network? Why we use Azure Virtual Network? Yes, any inputs?
To get the machine to speak to each other with the private IPs and um, with the other outside that network with using public IP.
Okay. Yes, Manoj, Nitish.
Yeah, to communicate with other VMs.
Right. To communicate with other VM. Like we all know that. So we connect networks to share the resources. We connect network. What is it? To share the resources. That resources can be your applications. That resources can be your data. Okay. So your storage all comes, all the devices which we establish the network and we share inside the network. So like in on premises, we get a switch of Cisco, we connect computers for that and we establish the network, right? And this is your own network. Like how you establish this network at your on premises, the same thing which we're talking about in cloud also. Okay, in the Microsoft data center also, we can go and establish our network. We can go and establish our network. And that network which we are saying, it is not physical and it is a logical network. Okay. So Azure Virtual Network is a service that provide a fundamental building block for your private network, right? So as an example, which we say, uh, I purchased a flat I've taken a flat in an apartment. So I'm paying rent for that flat, and as long as I pay rent for that, and that flat belongs to me. And inside that flat, whatever the infrastructure I have, that all belongs to me, and it owned by me, and it is maintained by me. Any changes I have to do inside that, I can do it. Okay, and like the same, what I'm trying to say in Azure Data Center, what we are going to do, we are going to create a network. Okay, and these network, which we talk about something called as a VNet, right? And this VNet, inside this VNet, whenever you are trying to create a VNet inside the Azure, whenever you're trying to create a VNet inside the Azure, so what is the first thing that you have to see? The first thing that you have to see inside this is, okay, you have to see what is the size of network that you are going to create. What is the size of network that you are going to create? So what is the size of network that you are going to create? So that how it comes. So initially, let us give this, few things over here. Let me talk about this RG VNet, which I'm going to create here. And I'm giving this VNet like for an organization, I take it, or I'll simply put it my VNet, right? So inside this, which data center you are going to deploy, I'm choosing this as a South India. And from here, which I'm talking about here, this is what you're going to do. You're going to see the size of your network. So the size of your network, which is going to be decided by your address space, which is going to be decided by your address space. So what is this address space? And what do we do with this address space? What is this address space? What do we do with this address space? Now, address space is something which is say here, define the address space of your virtual network with one or more, what is a IP version 4, right? Now, what is this IP version 4 comes here? So when we talk about network, when we talk about communication, and here the role comes about here about the IP address. Now, IP address, it is a, what is a logical address? IP address is a unique address. IP address is a temporary address. And finally, IP address is used to communicate in the network. So when we talk about this IP address, which comes into two versions. What are the version that we talk about? One version is IP version 4 and number two is IP version, okay, 6. Now IP version 4, basically it is a 32-bit IP address. When I say 32-bit, it comes under zeros and ones. IP version 6, it comes with, okay, 128-bit over here. And this 128-bit of IP address, IP version 4 was developed in 1980s. Okay, and IP address 6 was developed around, what do you say, 1999, right? So by using this IP version 4, we can go and create around 4.3 billions of IP addresses. How many? 4.3 billion. So IP version 6, you can get 100 trillions of IP addresses we can get. So whenever we are talking about IP version 4, IP address 4, okay, basically it is a 32-bit address and it is divided into 4 octs. Now each oct presents how many bits? 8 bits, right? So how we can say 8, 8, 8, 8. So these are the 4 octs which I say, and each oct contain 8 bit, and each oct is divided by a dot. Now I say like this. What do you say? IP address is divided with, 4 octs, and each oct is divided by dot. So an example IP address is given like this. How? So we say 1.0.0.1. No, this each oct contains 8 bits, right? So now this IP version 4 which I'm talking about, so which is designed by IANA, okay, Internet Authority Number Assigning, and this is designed by IANA, and IP version 4 which we're talking about, which can be in between the range of this IP address where you can assign to your computers, which is called 0 to 255. So if I go and try to give, okay, above this, what do you say, above this 0 to 1, 0 to 2 to 255. So let's an example we take here. I'll take this 1.300. Now 300, it says it's not a valid IP, right? So what is the valid IP? It can be taken here. Okay, it can be taken below this, 255, which I say. Now you see 255. If I try to give 256 also, it will not take it. So with this, okay. So what IANA says, you can go and give assign IP address which is in between 0 to 255. And this 255, 0 to 255, which is divided into again 5 classes. Okay, about 5 classes. Now, what are the 5 classes which I say? That classes are class A, which I say class B, class C, class D, and class E. Now, these 5 classes of IP addresses, what IANA said is there is a range in between this A, B, C. So what they said, there is a range like, if I say class A, it is 0 to 127. If I take class B, it is 128 to 191. If I say class C, it is 192 to 223. If I say class D, it is 224 to 239. And if I say class C, it is 240 to 255. Now, IP address from 0 to 5, 0 to 255, it is divided into 5 classes. And in that, now every class has their own range. And one more thing which you have to see here is this IP address, version, what we're talking about, this IP address version 4, which I say, uh, how many we can take inside this, how many addresses range that we can take inside this means, for that, what are the IP addresses that can be used here? That means we can use only ABC IP addresses. What we can use? ABC, only IP addresses are used in the LAN and WAN. We cannot use D and E addresses. D is reserved for the multicasting and E is reserved for the research and development. So when I say from 0 to 223, an example, let's see now. If I try to give my IP address as what I say, 224 IP address, now it says no, you cannot be assigned this IP address. Why? You see here, please specify the value in between 1 to 223 only. In the next portion, you can give this IP address. I say 1 dot, what I say, 250, 5 I can give here, but I cannot give here, what is it? I cannot give here 224 addresses. The reason is, IANA said, you can assign your addresses from this range only. You cannot go and assign above this range. Understood about this? Yes, you're there with me?
Got it.
Any queries here? Yes, you're there with me.
These dots does not consume any bits, isn't it?
What do you say?
I mean, these dots in between, like uh, the four octs we divided by four dots.
Yes.
These dots do not consume any bits, isn't it?
No, no, no.
Just the separator, that's
Just
it.
simply it's a dot. Okay. All right. So now this ABC which I'm talking about, now these addresses can be assigned into for your what do you say systems. Now when I say this ABC again, and this ABC from 0 to 220, 0 to what I say 223, we can assign these addresses to the computers. Now from this 0 to 223, what Ayana said is, okay, you have something called, what is it, private addresses, and you have something called public addresses. You have something called private addresses and you have something called public addresses. Now, what are these private addresses? What are these public IP addresses? Private addresses is something like which I can say these are which are free. Okay, you can assign it. Okay, inside your LAN network. You can assign this in your LAN network. And public IP addresses are the IP addresses which are to what I say, which you have to pay. Okay, these are the paid addresses. These are the paid addresses, and these addresses which are used in WAN. So where I'm talking about which are used in the WAN. WAN means which I say what is it? Internet. WAN means which I'm talking about what is it? Internet. Right? So now what Ayana said, what I'm talking about in this between 0 to what I say 223 addresses. Now what are the private addresses and what are the public addresses? What are the private addresses and what are the public addresses? Now, for that example, like if I say, what is it? Private, private IP versus public IP here. So you can get some good images in the internet. So let me take this as an example. So open in a new tab. So inside this, if you see here, right? So let me take this. Now you can see here in this, what we have here, private IP and public IP differences. We have something over here. And for this, what we are talking about, let me copy this. Right. So here, you see here, as we are discussing about, so these IP addresses which are used only in, what is it, LAN, and other things which we can use in the, what is it, public network. That means over the internet. And what you're assigning these private IP addresses can be used only, okay, in the LAN, which is assigned by you as an administrator. You cannot use this in the internet, and it is not recognized also. So you as an administrator who's going to provide this, what is it, private IP address. So IANA is going to give you a public IP address. Now the thing is, what is that you are going to assign for your computer? What is that you are going to assign for your computer? Now, what is it you are going to assign for the computer? For that, what I'm trying to say here, I'm trying to use this, what is it? A range which is given by the IANA. So what IANA is saying here, okay, we have three classes, right? Okay. So what are the classes? Class A, B, C. Now from each class, Ayana has, removed some certain range of IP address. So from class A, what Ayana said here, from class A, what Ayana said here. So they have removed this, what is it? 10.0.0.0. And from class B, what Ayana did is they removed this. Okay, what is this? I say 172.16.0.0. And inside this only they have taken one more which is called 172.16 dot 172.16 dot how much it is 172.16 dot sorry, in place of 16, it is 31.250, 255 dot, what is it, 255. Now this is the range they have taken. And one more in class C, you can see here, what is it? The first one is 192.168.0.0, and inside this only up to, what do you say, 192.168, okay, dot 255.255. That means any IP address which is coming inside these ranges. As an example, if I say there is an IP address called 10.0.0.5. Now the question is, this IP address is a private IP or a public IP? So whenever you are trying to see this, first thing that you have to see over here is, if the question comes here, what is this? It's a private IP or a public IP. So whenever you want to see that, say that to see, okay, the class of what is a IP address, to see the class of IP address, the first thing is that you have to see the first portion. What do we say? See the first, what is it? Portion of IP address. Now, what is the first portion? How many portions here we have? We have 4 portions inside that. So what we are trying to say? See the first portion. So when I say 10, now you have to check this 10 comes into which range. Now 0 to 127. That means this comes here. Where it is it? This comes here about 10 comes here. Okay, in between class A. So in class A iron acid, you can use this. Okay, whenever you want, you can go and assign this whenever you say 10.0.0.0. Basically, it is called as a network ID. Okay, what is called? It is called as a network ID. 0 defines in every number, like which I say IP address starts here like this, right? 10.0.0.1 and there 10.0.0.2. So before this, what we are saying to say, basically it starts with 0 and 1 like this. But here 0 is not valid. Your computer cannot take that 0. If I try to give the IP address call, what is it? 10.0.0.0 and try to click OK, it says no, it's not valid. So that makes me to go and give what is the next IP address to your computer is 1. Now why I'm assigning this 10.0.0.1? There are IP addresses which starts like this, right? Okay. As we said, the IP address is from 0 to 255 in the previous case. What we said, the IP address which comes with 0 to 255. That means it starts like this, right? 0.0.0.0. As it is not valid, now we are talking about 1.0.0.0. And 1.0.0.0, which I'm talking about here, let me put here. So this 1.0.0.0, as it is called as a network ID. What it is called as a what it is called? Network ID. And here, which I'm talking about, the next IP address which will start from like this. What it's at 1.0.0.1. And the next IP address is 1.0.0. Like instead of 1, what I'm taking here, I'm taking this class A 10 series. Why I'm taking that 10 series? Why I'm not taking this one? Because this one is called as a public IP. So why it is called as a public IP? What I said, except this series of addresses, anything you take in between this A to C, that all comes under the public IP addresses. Okay, that all comes under the public. Okay, so how you can say, as you said, see the first portion of the IP address. What to say? To see the
I wanted to say that, I'm just trying to rephrase it. Look, the range for public IP is the given as a class A, B, and C. Whatever is out of these IPs will be private IPs.
whatever apart from this is a public IP.
Yeah, out of public. Yeah, that's all.
That is what here it is saying the pick, right? 1.0.0.0 so and so, so and so, so and so. Anything you take it, that comes under the public IP address. Now, if I say example, now I say 200.10.0.1. Now the question is it a private IP or a public IP? What do you say? Private or a public? Now, what is
As
the
in this, the range, the range it is with 192 and 192.
right? Now, first thing, what the rule you have to see the class of the IP address. See the first portion. Now, see the first portion. This is 200. Now, 200 comes here into which category? Class C category. So, 200 category, you're saying, okay, this is class C. What IANA said in class C, they said 192.168.0.0, right? Now, it is 200. That means it is not matching to this, and you consider as a public IP. Clear? You're there with me?
I'm looking at the first portion, which is 200, Sampath.
Yes. Now, which class this is? Therefore,
If I go back to the range of class C is 192 to 223.
yes, 192,
And
right? It's not matching here, right?
yeah, it's not.
See, if I say here 192.168.1.1 like this,
Mm-hmm.
okay, or you put it as a 0.1 like this. Now the question comes here, is it a private IP or a public IP?
It is a private IP
So how you are saying it is a private IP,
because it starts with the 192,
right? And second is 168. The
160.
0.0, no, you can change this. No, there's something called as host bits, 0.1. And this comes out as a, what is it? Private IP address. This
And
comes
it's
in.
out of it is out of the range of public IP that they have
Yes,
reserved.
yes. So other than this, any IP you take it, that comes under the public IP, and public IPs are used in the internet, and
Hmm.
they are the unique addresses over the world. One IP which is having assigned to a computer that cannot be same to anywhere in the world with other device. And private IP addresses are free, and public IP addresses are, you have to purchase this.
So we will have to remember it, Sampath, isn't it? And is there any practical example or like practical challenge that we can see or a way of remembering it basically in a real-time scenario? We could, we be asked or we could be in a situation that we will have to implement this knowledge.
Okay, so you have to remember there is no shortcut one thing. And
Mhm.
basically, how do you remember that which you say? Most of the time, you see, Microsoft Azure is giving you one series which is called 10000, right? And blindly, when you are creating this, your network that comes with private IP only. You cannot get a public IP directly here. One. Okay. Number two, when you are going to get your public IP, now I'm creating my network. And what is the range I'm going to get here? 10.0.0. Okay, 0 slash. Okay, we'll discuss about this slash 16 also. But now once your network is created, the second job which you're going to create is, once your network is created, just give me a minute. So what I'm trying to say here, now when you're creating the network blindly, you have to, consider this, the network which is created inside the Azure, it is a private only. Okay. Number two, when the private network is been get created, so when you want to, uh, you know, access these devices from different locations, when you want to access these devices from different locations. Now, in that case, example I'm saying here, I'm going and creating my VM. Now, this VM has to be, configured or access or do changes or deploy your application. So you need to access that, right? So in that case, what I'm trying to say, your Microsoft is going to give you one more address, and that address which I'm talking about, which is called as a public address. So for a machine, you can get a private IP and you can get a public IP. Now, what is that public IP which you can get? As we discussed, now from 0 to 223, except this, this 10, any number which is coming over here, it can be an example 2.0.0.1, and this 2 comes under the public IP. And through some protocol like RDP and all, you can access this, okay, machine. And here, this public IP address, which is been charged by the Microsoft, and private
Hmm.
IP addresses, which are not charged by the Microsoft. This is you created within it. Now, private IP addresses, why this private IP address? Now, inside the Azure, now you get here. Now, this is my one more machine which I'm going to create. Okay. Like you say, this is a web server and this is my database server. Now, you want internal network for these both, right? Right? So user comes here and browse for something and come to the web server. When he tries to log in into his, account, he gives some credentials and that has to match with your database server. And for that, you need to have a network in between this. So in that case, now my IP address will be here. What is it? 10.0.0.3. Okay. By default, you're going to get this address over here. And here, which I'm going to get here, 10.0.0. What is it? Uh, Let me put this as a 5, and technically you are going to get this IP address as a 4. Okay, so when I'm talking about the IP addresses, okay, Microsoft here by default is not going to give you, okay, some addresses. What are the some addresses which I say here? Now here we have taken this, right? Microsoft is not going to give you this 10.0.0.0. It is a network ID. Like Microsoft is not going to give this 1 and also 2. Okay, what is it? And also this address as a 2, and also your Microsoft is not going to give you one more IP address over here for your private IP addresses, that is 3, and one more IP address which is end IP address, that is called 10.0.0. Which is a, I can put it like end like this, these addresses, okay, which is not going to give it. So here 1, 2, 3, and what is the next IP address which you're going to get? IP address 4, and that 4 IP address which is going to assign to your web server. Okay, that 4 IP address which is going to assign to your web server. Okay, and the next IP address which you're going to get for another machine is 10.0.0.5. What is it? 10.0.0.5. Right? So here which I'm talking about on what? We are talking about something of IP address version 4. It is a 32-bit, and this 32-bit finally we got 255, 0 to 255. In that we have used only 0 to 223, and in this 0 to 223 we have private IP address and we have public IP address. Now, what is private? It is freely. Where we are using these free IP addresses? We are using these free IP addresses over here, okay, inside the Azure VNet. And to access this VM, and here we are using something called, what is it? Public IP addresses. And for public, you are paying to the Microsoft, and for private, you are not paying to the Microsoft. Okay, clear on this? Any queries here?
All good.
Yes. Yes. Right. So we'll reconnect once.